The first day I walked into that school, I didn't know my life had already been divided into before and after. I was adjusting the strap of my backpack when I felt it, that sharp, burning stare. I looked up and saw her. Stephenie. She was leaning against a locker like she owned the hallway. Perfect hair, perfect smile. Friends orbiting her like planets. When her eyes met mine, her lips curved not into a smile but something colder. "Who's that?" she asked loudly. I froze. People turned to look at me like I'd been called to the stand. "No idea," one of her friends said. "Probably another nobody." Stephenie tilted her head, studying me. "She walks like she thinks she belongs here." Laughter followed me all the way to class. That day she made sure I didn't forget her name. My chair was missing. My books were knocked off my desk. Someone tripped me by accident. When I looked up, Stephenie was watching, amused. That was when I learned my first lesson. Some people don't hate you because of what you did. They hate you because you exist. And Stephenie had decided. I existed too loudly. I just didn't know how long she planned to make me pay. By the second week, Stephenie had perfected her cruelty. It was never loud, never obvious. That was the worst part. She'd smile sweetly and say things like, "You're brave for wearing that," while her friends laughed. Or she'd lean over my desk and whisper, "Do you ever get tired of trying so hard?" I was a student. That became another weapon. "Careful," she told the class once. "Ruth might cry if she doesn't get first place." The teacher laughed. My friends Paris, Zuri and Stanley sat with me during lunch, shielding me with their presence. The geeks, they called us. I didn't care. Loyalty mattered more than popularity. Still, it hurt. What hurt more was knowing she had everything: money, confidence, attention, and still needed to take mine. One afternoon, as I packed my bag, I felt someone standing behind me. "Just so you know," Stephenie said softly, "people like you don't win here." I looked up at her. "Win what?" She smiled. "Life." She walked away, heels clicking like punctuation. That night, I stared at the ceiling and repeated the words my mother always said. "Two things you don't fight for: true land and true friends. They come naturally." I held on to that. But I didn't notice the boy across the room who had been watching everything. Quietly. Wesley. That was his name. I didn't know it at first, I just knew he was always there. In class, in the hallway, at assemblies. And he was always looking at me. He sat with Stephenie's crowd, laughing, relaxed, untouchable. Her boyfriend, everyone knew it. Yet when Stephenie humiliated me, Wesley didn't laugh. When she whispered poison into the air, his jaw tightened. Once during biology I caught him staring, not like he was judging me, but like he was curious. I looked away fast. That kind of attention was dangerous. "Why does Stephenie's boyfriend keep staring at you?" Zuri whispered one day. "He's not," I lied. But he was. The strangest moment came during a group project. We were paired randomly. Fate has a sick sense of humor. When Stephenie saw our names together, her smile vanished. "Relax," Wesley said calmly. "It's just work." I expected arrogance, I got kindness. "You're really smart," he told me after class. "You explain things clearly." I didn't know how to respond. Stephenie watched us from across the room, her eyes dark. That night, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Wesley, sorry if this is weird. I just wanted to say, don't let her make you small." My hands shook. I didn't reply. I didn't know it yet, but that message would echo years later. When everything changed. High school became something I endured, not enjoyed. I learned to stay invisible, to shrink, to excel quietly. My grades soared while my voice disappeared. Stephenie never stopped, she didn't need to. Her power was effortless. By graduation, she stood on stage glowing, future promised and protected. Her parents beamed, her friends cheered. Wesley stood beside her, clapping politely. I sat with my friends, hands folded, heart guarded. College came like air after drowning. New city, new faces, no Stephenie. I bloomed there, slowly, carefully. I found confidence, purpose. I learned who I was without someone crushing me daily. 6 years passed. I thought I had buried that part of my life. Until one afternoon at a shopping mall while choosing a dress, I heard a familiar laugh. I turned. Stephenie stood there, older, thinner, holding shopping bags, a man beside her, two children tugging at her hands. She looked different. Tired. Our eyes met. For the first time in my life, Stephenie didn't smile. She looked away. And I realized something terrifying. Time had done something to her. And I had no idea what seeing her again was about to unlock. Especially when fate decided to bring him back too. I met Wesley again at a product launch. I almost dropped my drink when I saw him. He was taller, sharper, familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. "Ruth," he said, disbelief in his voice. We talked like no time had passed. Careers, life, mutual friends we somehow shared now, it felt unreal. Stephenie didn't come up. But she hovered. A week later we started hanging out, public places, group settings, just friends. Or so I told myself. One night over coffee, Wesley said quietly, "I always wondered what would have happened if things were different." I met his eyes, different how? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Timing. That was when I knew. This wasn't coincidence. This was something unfinished crawling back into my life. And somewhere out there, Stephenie was starting to sense it. Because the next time our paths crossed, she couldn't look me in the eye. And the real story was only beginning. Stephenie started appearing everywhere. The cafe near my office, the mall, even a charity event Paris dragged me to, always with that same tight smile like she was holding something in. The first time we actually spoke, she blocked my path near the restroom. "Ruth," she said, dragging out my name. "Wow, long time." "Stephenie," I replied evenly. Her eyes flicked behind me, to Wesley laughing with Stanley. "I didn't know you and Wesley were close," she said. "We're friends," I said. She laughed too loudly. "Of course you are." That night my phone buzzed. "Unknown number, be careful, some doors should stay closed." I stared at the screen, pulse racing. I didn't reply. Instead, I met Wesley for dinner the next day. We talked about work, about failure, about becoming someone our younger selves wouldn't recognize. "You've changed," he said. "So have you," I replied. He nodded. "Yeah, some choices cost more than you expect." I didn't ask what he meant. But I felt the balance shifting. Something old was cracking. And Stephenie was starting to realize she no longer controlled the board. Paris noticed first. "You're different lately," she said, stirring her drink. "Careful different." Zeri agreed. "Stephenie hasn't smiled once since you started hanging out with Wesley." Stanley leaned back. "That's not nothing." I laughed it off. I told them they were reading too much into it. But deep down I knew. Stephenie started posting cryptic quotes online, about loyalty, about betrayal, about women who forget their place. Wesley never mentioned her. That silence was louder than any argument. One evening he admitted, "I haven't spoken to her in years." "Why?" I asked. He hesitated, "Because staying would have destroyed me." That night I dreamed of high school hallways and lockers slamming shut. In the morning I woke to an email. Subject: class reunion 10 years. My hands froze. Stephenie's name was on the organizing committee. And suddenly everything felt inevitable. Wesley asked me to attend the reunion together. "Just as friends," he said quickly, "if you're comfortable." I wasn't sure if I was. Paris grabbed my hands. "You don't owe anyone shrinking." Zeri nodded. "If she's uncomfortable, that's her problem." Stanley smiled. "Besides, I want front row seats." I laughed, but my stomach twisted. The night before the reunion, Stephenie finally confronted me. She cornered me in a parking lot. "You think this is funny?" she snapped. "I don't know what you're talking about." Her eyes burned. "You've always been like this, quiet, sneaky." That word hit hard. "I didn't take anything from you," I said. She leaned closer. "Not yet." I drove home shaking. When I checked my phone, there was a message from Wesley. Whistler, tomorrow matters more than you think. I didn't sleep. The reunion was everything I hated. Fake smiles, old hierarchies, people pretending they hadn't been cruel. Stephenie arrived late, commanding attention like she used to. When she saw me beside Whistler, something in her cracked. She couldn't look at me. Not once. Whistler stayed close, protective without touching. At one point he leaned in and whispered, "I sh've said this years ago." I held my breath. But he didn't finish. Later that night, we walked alone under the parking lot lights. "I'm proud of you," he said, "for surviving." Before I could respond, he took my hands. My phone buzzed. "Stephenie, you won't win." I stared at the message. Then I looked at Whistler. And realized winning was no longer the point. The night before everything changed, Whistler invited me over. We talked for hours, no masks, no history edits. I was scared, he admitted, back then of losing status, of disappointing people. And now, I asked, "I'm scared of losing you." Silence filled the room. When he stood up, I thought he was leaving. Instead, he reached into his pocket. My heart slammed. "Ruth," he said softly. I stopped him with a raised hand. "Don't." He froze. "Not tonight," I whispered. "Some things deserve daylight." He nodded, understanding. When I got home, I saw a missed call from Stephenie. No voicemail. Just silence. And I knew. Whatever she was afraid of was already in motion. Stephenie stopped pretending after the reunion. She didn't text anymore, she watched. At work events, mutual gatherings, even online, every post of mine got an instant view, no likes, just presence. Whistler finally said her name out loud. "She hates this," he admitted, "seeing you, seeing us." "There is no us," I reminded him. He smiled faintly, "Not yet." That night, Paris sent me screenshots. Stephenie was asking questions, about me, about Whistler, about how long this had been going on. Ziari was blunt, "She thinks you stole something." I laughed, but it sounded wrong. Stolen things imply ownership. And I had never belonged to her. Still, the unease crawled under my skin. Because bullies don't change. They just wait for better timing. The confrontation happened at a fundraiser. She pulled me aside, nails digging into my wrist. "Tell me the truth," Stephenie hissed. "Are you sleeping with him?" I stared at her, calm, honest, unafraid. "That's none of your business." Her eyes filled, not with tears but rage. "You always wanted what was mine." I laughed, I couldn't help it. "You never saw me," I said quietly. "You just needed someone beneath you." Her hand trembled. For a second I saw fear. Then she released me and straightened her dress. "You'll regret this," she said smoothly. She walked away. And I realized something terrifying. She wasn't angry because she was losing him. She was angry because she was losing control. Whistler noticed the shift before I did. "You're walking like you expect a hit," he said. "Old habits." Paris came over with wine and certainty. "You're not that girl anymore." Ziari added, "And even if you were, we'd still stand between you and her." Stanley raised his glass, to surviving long enough to win quietly. Their loyalty grounded me. That night, Whistler and I talked honestly for the first time. "I loved her once," he admitted, "but it was never safe." I nodded. "Some love is just fear dressed up." He looked at me like he was seeing me clearly. And that scared me more than Stephenie ever had. The news travelled fast. Stephenie's marriage was cracking, whispers followed her now. She started showing up alone. No husband, no smiles. At a brunch, she sat across from me, hands clenched. "You think you've won," she said. "I'm not playing," I replied. Her laugh was hollow. "You always say that." She leaned in. "He'll choose comfort over struggle." I met her gaze, then he wasn't mine to begin with. Something in her broke. She stood abruptly and left. The room felt lighter. But victories like that don't come without consequences. Because that evening, Whistler called me. "Ruth," he said, voice tight, "we need to talk." We met at his place. He didn't waste time. "She came to see me," he said. My heart sank and she asked me to choose. Silence stretched. "And you?" I asked. He stepped closer. I told her I already had. My breath caught. "But," he added softly, "this changes everything." I nodded. I knew it did. There was no going back now. Outside, rain started falling, heavy, relentless. My phone buzzed. "Stephenie, enjoy it while it lasts." I looked at Whistler. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. Because revenge doesn't always begin with a plan. Sometimes it begins when someone finally chooses you. Stephenie didn't scream, she strategized. Rumors started floating, subtle, careful, poisonous. Someone mentioned I was calculating, another said I'd always been after Whistler. Old classmates suddenly remembered events that never happened. I recognized the pattern. She was rewriting history. Whistler warned me, she's reminding people who she used to be. I shook my head, no. She's afraid. Paris was furious. "Say the word and I'll expose everything." "No," I said, "let her talk." That surprised even me. Because for once, I wasn't fighting for survival. I was waiting. And Stephenie had no idea how close she was to breaking herself. "Party. You think silence makes you innocent," she sneered. "It makes me free," I replied. Her voice cracked. I gave him everything. I looked at her, really looked. "You gave him control," I said, "not love." That landed. She stepped back like I'd struck her. Behind her, people were watching. She realized too late. This wasn't high school anymore. And she wasn't untouchable. Wesley asked me to stay over. We talked until dawn. No distractions, no fear. "I don't want to repeat old mistakes," he said. "I want something real." I believed him. When he took my hand, it felt like closure and beginning wrapped together. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Message, "He will ruin you like he ruined me." I didn't reply. I turned my phone face down. For the first time, I chose peace over panic. And that decision would change everything. The announcement came quietly. Too quietly. Wesley invited a few friends for dinner, Paris, Zuri, Stanley. Laughter, food, normalcy. Then he stood up, nervous. "I don't like big speeches," he said. He reached into his pocket. Stephenie wasn't there. But her presence was. When I saw the ring, my heart nearly stopped. "Yes," I whispered before he finished. Applause, tears, shock. My phone vibrated violently. "Stephenie, you planned this." I smiled softly. Because the truth was simple. I never planned revenge. But life had just placed it gently. In my hands. Stephenie found out about the engagement the same way everyone else did. Online. Paris posted a photo of my hand resting on Wesley's chest. No caption, no explanation, just the ring. Within minutes, the views climbed. Within an hour, my phone rang. I didn't answer. At work, people congratulated me. At lunch, strangers smiled at me like they knew something. That evening, Stephenie showed up at my door. Her eyes were red, her confidence gone. "You really did it," she whispered. I crossed my arms. "Did what?" She swallowed. "You took everything." I met her gaze steady. "No, I survived everything." She left without another word. And for the first time, I knew. She had no moves left. The organizers announced a final reunion dinner, smaller, more intimate. Stephenie couldn't back out. Neither could I. She arrived late, alone. When Wesley walked in beside me, the room shifted. Heads turned, whispers followed. Stephenie stared at the ring like it was a verdict. Someone congratulated her on her kids. Another asked about her husband. Her smile cracked. When it was my turn to speak, just a casual update, I kept it simple. I found peace, I said, and people who chose me. Applause followed. Stephenie didn't clap. She couldn't even look up. And that was the loudest sound in the room. She cornered me near the exit. You enjoyed this, she accused. I shook my head. I outgrew you. That hurt her more than anger ever could. You were nothing without me, she said desperately. I leaned in, voice calm. You needed me small so you could feel big. Her breath hitched. Behind us, Wesley appeared, not protective, just present. Stephenie looked at him, searching. He didn't move. And she understood. That was the moment she lost him completely. Revenge didn't feel sharp. It felt quiet. Stephenie stopped showing up. Her posts faded, her circle shrank, people moved on. No one attacked her. No one needed to. Life had already spoken. One afternoon I ran into her again, at the same mall, different stores. She looked smaller. You win, she said softly. I shook my head. This was never a competition. She nodded slowly. And for the first time, she believed me. Our wedding was small. Paris cried, Zuri laughed, Stanley gave a terrible speech. I felt loved, chosen, safe. Stephenie didn't come. But I heard she saw the photos. Someone said she stared at them for a long time. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt closure. Because the girl she bullied never came back. Only the woman she couldn't control. I used to think revenge meant breaking someone. I was wrong. Revenge is living well without apology. Stephenie taught me pain. But life taught me justice. True land came naturally. True friends stood firm. And love. Love found me when I stopped begging to be seen. Some stories don't end with an explosion. They end with silence. And peace. And a girl who was once invisible. Finally walking forward unafraid. Do you think Ruth's actions were justified? Or should she have handled things differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you believe living well is the best revenge. Subscribe for more real emotional stories where life delivers the justice.